Hey Forza heads, Forza fans, back with another tuning guide for you. This is a community tune request for a BMW M6 GT car. So I thought I'd dive into a race. You can see we've got some turn one shenanigans there. I jumped into a race in Mugello and we qualified first, and then we went from there. What I've done for this tuning guide is I've chucked the tuning guide in the middle of this race. So when we get to the sort of boring part where I'm sort of on my own, yeah, we'll go through the tuning guide then. This is the start of the race. I've also shared the start for the Ferrari here that started in 7th place coming up now. So in the BMW, didn't get the best start, got overtaken and then basically swiped by the Ferrari that made it from 7th to 2nd, taking out about 4 people in turn 1. And then we were followed up by the Ford GT, giving me a little bit of a dive bomb into the next bend. But then after that, the race kind of sorted itself out and we got into it. So I started on hard tyres. I was going for a hard soft. The people around me started on mediums. I wasn't sure what compound to go for. I was just going to push hards. It's a 15-16 minute race, so I was going to push hards for as long as I could and see if I can get them to the stage where I could run the softs. And then I think my competitors were running mediums, but that means they've also got to run a lap, maybe possibly a lap on each tyre where they're wearing out. So I'm hoping if I can push my hards, we'll get to the end of the race and my softs will come into play. So we just get round, the Ferrari just pulls in on me again there just as we get round the corner together. I touch the brakes, so I do manage to slip in behind him. He goes a little bit out wider because he came out a bit hard. And I get inside and we just try and hold it. He then gets back, he starts giving me a nudge here, which then gives the other guy a little bump, although he did seem to be affected more than he should have been from it. Then we just get our head down, keep racing. You can see now, because of his bumping, he's sort of left himself open to the people behind. So that gives me time to just break a bit of room, hopefully get him out of my slipstream before we hit the straight. It's probably about 0.8 of a second. And then, yeah, head down the straight. So at the moment, there's first place. He's now, what, 1, 2, 3. He's probably about 5-6 seconds ahead of me at this point from lap 1, just where we had our shenanigans in turn 1 and then sort of got held up getting back. So it's time now just generally to get your head down, concentrate and just try and be smooth on these hard tyres and make them last. We don't want any unnecessary wheel spin. So you can hear sometimes I'm blipping the throttle through the corners because I just want to sort of control that boost, not get too much lag and just be able to drive it out the corner. We're trying, you know, to maintain the control here. Yeah, so we're sticking to our lines. We're just sort of cutting the apexes as much as we can, widening the track. You see we're just powering through, we're opening up a gap from the people behind. First place, I think, ends up, by the time he pits, is probably about 7 seconds ahead of us. So we're sort of wondering whether we can do this or not, as it were. I think when I come out of the pits, he actually ends up quite a bit in front of me, because I thought it was someone else. I thought I had 2 people here racing at first. I thought there was this guy in front now, and then I thought there was another one trying to run hards for a longer period. But it turned out the guy come out of the pit, he has a bit of a scrappy lap afterwards. That enables me to close down a little bit. Once I come into the pit, he then comes past, breaks the lead, and then I'm just chasing him down on softs right to the wire. We're going to go through the tuning guide in a minute. We're going to have a little look, but you just saw first place go past then. So he's maintaining the gap. He's probably opened it up a smidge there, probably looking at more like 7 second gap now, and I think I pretty much maintain that for now until he pits. Still got 2 cars chasing us there. It doesn't look like it's the Ferrari anymore. I think it's a Corvette. 2 Corvettes, or is it the Corvette and the Ford? we've got a good gap, no one's in on slipstream. These can be the toughest parts of the race though. You know, you get into the middle of the race and no one's about, and you really just got to concentrate on your strategy, concentrate on your lap times, make sure you're trying to be consistent, take the same lines, use all the road, widen the track. It's all about, you know, making sure you get the smoothest line through a corner possible. So you kind of want to be like, you know, up over the curbs as much as you can. And generally you only want to be turning into turns once. You know, you don't want to be sort of tapping and tapping and tapping and finding the turn. I mean, maybe on really long gradual bends, but you know, if you're on a bend like the carousel here or anything, then you're going to want to just be holding full lock and controlling the throttle speed to make sure that you're always on full lock. I mean, on a steering wheel it's slightly different. Obviously you can control your steering element a little bit and be a little bit smoother, whereas with the controller you kind of got to be a bit, you know, late on the turns, throw it in hard, fast, get to full lock and just be modulating the brakes and the throttle to control your speed into the bend and out of the bend. We're going now, I don't even think we see first there, so I think, yeah, his lead has opened up a little bit. Yeah, so we're really going to have to concentrate on pushing these hard tyres for probably around sort of 5 laps, and then see if we can get the last few laps out of the softs. I think it's 2 laps, maybe 3 out of the softs, and then rein him in. But here's the tune guide. So this is the tune that we are running on the BMW M6 in the race. So tuning wise, we've got the tyre pressure on 26 and 27. Having a stiffer rear is just a way of creating a little bit of extra rotation, like on everything. The gearing is at 45, 75, 105, 125, 145, 165, and that sees us to about 170. It's good enough. If you're on Daytona or Le Mans, you're going to want to probably looking at lengthening them gears by 5 mile an hour, 10 mile an hour and 15 mile an hour, and then you should be there or thereabouts. What you can do. Camber's on 2.0, 1.5. The toe here is out 0.1 on the front and in 1.1 or 1.0 we'll have on the rear. So this is where this car just has a little bit of snap oversteer. So all we've done is we've just put a bit of rear toe in, quite a lot, or it's not really a lot, but yeah, quite a bit, so compared to what other cars run. For the tune, that stabilises that back end, and then we can create rotation in other ways to get the turning back. So the caster angle is 7.0, so this will increase the front camber as you go around the corner. The anti-roll bars, these are pretty critical for creating rotation and the speed in which you want to turn from left and right. So by having them both stiff, you'll turn left to right quicker. By having them both soft, you'll turn left to right slower. By having the rear harder than the front, you'll turn quicker. By having the rear softer than the front, you'll turn slower. And by depending on how much you have this down, you'll turn more and more and more until you can't turn no more. But yeah, that's basically how you create excess oversteer. Generally, because we're going to run some of the settings quite high and stiff, because this is a race car, we're going to not need to create too much rotation. This car's pretty good for it, so 35-40 on them. We're 850. This is going to change depending on your fuel level, but 850 and 825 is generally where I have it set. You know, there's a 25 difference. That just softens the back a bit, so when we're creating the rotation, there's some aspects where the back, where I'm just aiding the control, and this is one of them, just by having a softer rear end. So we're going to ride height up at the rear, down at the front just by 1 click. Both of them decked basically, and then just up 1 click, and then that again just gives you a slight bit of extra edge on rotation and a slight bit of anti-dive on the brake straight away. It puts you in a nice squatted stance. So yeah, damping, we've got a 7.0 and 6.8, 10.5 and 10.2. So as we've said before, that's just 50% of this number on top of itself makes this number. So 7 plus 3.5 is 10.5, 6.8 plus 3.4 is 10.2, and then we've got the roll centre. So the roll centre, so I've been playing around with this quite a lot while I've been fiddling around. I've had a lot to do in the last week. I've had some plenty of issues. My dog's been to the vets, my mum's not been well, and I've had a bit of toothache as well, so it's all rolled into one. But anyway, so I've been playing around while I've got time to play with the roll centre offset. So basically, if you increase this, the more you increase this, the more response you'll have from each axle. So the higher you put it on the front, the more response you'll get from the front, quicker turning. The higher you put it on the back, the more response you get from the back, so it will flick out quicker. So again, just create rotation. So we've got this just steady slightly on the rear, up fairly high on the front, but again, this is just one of the tools that we're using to create rotation, as opposed to the roll bars. We just set them stiff to give us the sort of agility of left to right, and we're using the geometry to create the rest of the pitch into the corner, as it were. With the anti-dive and the anti-squat, you don't need to be afraid of these at all. Basically, as we're looking at it, we've got, you want to eliminate as much of the anti-dive as possible, and you want to eliminate as much of the anti-squat as possible while keeping control. So you can run this a lot higher than you think you can. You just need to practice with it. But running this at 80 means we get a lot of steadiness in braking, especially if we're going to be trail braking, or maybe braking once or twice and rolling around the corner and applying the brakes, because every time you snatch the brakes, you don't want to be diving back on the suspension. So by having this quite stiff, it allows you to modulate the brakes a lot better. And the same with the anti-squat, by having it stiffer but not as stiff as the front, it allows you to get on the throttle earlier, and you'll get more reaction from the throttle earlier, but it will still have this bit of control because it's softer than the front kind of thing. So yeah, that's where we're at with the anti-dive and the anti-squat. And then with the downforce, so we was running Magello, and I had a little go around Suzuka as well earlier, so we're running 344 and 444 on the aero. So if you were going to be running Le Mans or Daytona, you're going to want to run this right down. Probably start with, you know, halfway, and then all the way down, and then just reduce the front as much as you can, probably. So yeah, that's where I'd be if I was doing the longer tracks. And then you might just need to set the offset. Like obviously if you do that and it squirms a bit, you can then just go to the roll bars. You can increase this front, or you can soften the rear a little bit, or do an element of both. You can, with the geometry, you can increase the front a little bit, and that will give you a faster turning and a steadier back. Or you can just drop the back down slightly, and then you can just drop the anti-dive down a bit. You might want to experiment with the anti-dive on tyres, because it definitely is a little bit slippier on hards, but it managed the tyres really well. So the race we're in, I done a hard then soft compound, and the hards was the tyres that I pushed the extra lap, knowing that I wanted the softs to be good at the end, because I knew I was going to be chasing down first. So yeah, that was the strategy we went for, and it did pay off. So yeah. Then we've got the brakes at 47 130, so we've explained this before. So we have it just taking the brakes away from the front axle, giving us a bit of rotation during braking, and then the braking force is at 130. So we've got, you know, a huge amount of pressure when you first push the brakes, but when you modulate the brakes, trail braking, and you're coming down, you're not going to lose the brakes so easy. Like if you were starting at 90 and then coming off the brakes, it's not long before you're only at 60 or 30%. By doing it this way, you can come off while still maintaining fairly high brake pressure. Although if you're running ABS, you're probably going to want to drop that down a bit, especially if you're new to it. You're probably going to want to do it in the 90s. So yeah, that's the brakes. And the differential we've got on 60 and 15, so this just allows a little bit of slip from the rear. I never really want to go too low, because I do like to be able to just give the throttle a little bit of squirt to sometimes poke the nose in to a corner, and then yeah, get where we need to be. Deceleration, we're on 15%, so this just controls that snappiness off the throttle and gets you sort of into a bend a bit smoother. So yeah, that is the tune we're using in the race. Hope you enjoy the rest of the race. It was a good race, it was a tough race, and yeah, let me know in the comments what you think of the tune, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll get back to the race. Thanks for watching, guys. So here we are now back in the race. We have already had our pit stop. We did have it during the tune. It was down in the bottom right corner. But the Corvette came out right in behind us on turn 1 as we exited the pit. But he was clean. He just stayed on me tight for a couple of bends and I managed to open up the gap you can see there at the moment. The Lamborghini is still miles ahead, but I think he's on his second set of mediums. And I'm pretty sure he's going to run out at the end of the race. So I'm just trying to get my head down on these softs, get them working. When I came out and they were cold, they were a little bit squirmy at first on this car, but we got into it, we're still able to drive it. And then as we come round to the end of this lap, we can see, I think that we're about, I think it's maybe 9 seconds or something off him. I don't know if we'll see him cross the line this time. We'll have a look as we come across. We're just coming towards the last bend now, so we've hit the chicane. Like I say, we've opened up a gap to the Corvette. Now the last corner. Can we see him anywhere? Can't quite see him in the distance there. There he is. So yeah, he's probably about 7 seconds ahead, and I think we've got about 2 laps. So we're hoping from here his tyres are going to get worse. So all we've got to do is literally focus on getting these turns right, getting on the power as early as we can, and just making sure we optimise these soft tyres. The track's rubbering in, so you know he's going to have a little bit more grip on his mediums, but I'm also going to have more grip on my softs. I do think, you know, if you're starting a race, you are better off starting on your harder compound choice of the two. Because if you start on a soft compound and you don't get away at the beginning, then that soft compound's wasted. You know, you're going to be stuck doing medium lap times on soft tyres or hard lap times on medium tyres. And then when you come to pit, you'll pit early, you'll come out behind the people who are still on the harder compound, and then they'll be running in front of you on the slower delta. So, you know, you've got to be really careful with picking that soft compound first. You know, if you finish on a soft, when you pit, if you start on a hard compound and you can go and be one of the last to pit, chances are you're going to come out in clean air if you went in clean air. And you might have made a bit of deficit from the people who were in front of you pitted earlier and came out and got stuck behind traffic. So this is essentially the undercut. And as you can see now, we're on him. Look, this is the last lap, sorry. So we've closed him in. I'm pretty sure this is the last lap now. You can see him there. And now I'm pushing him and out. I know his tyres are worn. We've caught him a rate of knots in his last few bends. We know he's going to run wide. Here we come around the last corner. We just get on his inside. He can't defend it because he can't even pull in tight. You can see he's squirming there off the bend, even hanging it wide. So there we go. Like I say, hard and then softs round Mugello on a 16-minute race. So yeah, let me know what you think of the video, guys. If you like it, try the tune. Let me know what you think of the tune. Add it in the comments. How you get on in your races. And if you want to see any of the other GT cars tuned like this, let me know. If you want to see any of the other classes tuned, you want some A-class cars tuned quickly, or S-class, or you're doing a league and you want your car tuned for a league, let me know. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you on tarmac soon. Take care, guys.
Your instructor is one of the finest pilots this program has ever produced. His exploits are legendary. What he has to teach you may very well mean the difference between life and death.